Eldred's here, and with a hat that I probably wish I had on. And we do have a modification to the agenda, I believe.
It's a supplemental personnel report to add.
And that's it,
The consent agenda, and it's dated today.
Without objection, we'll go ahead and add that. And we'll move right on to receiving and hearing of delegations, and certainly a delegation we always like to hear from is IPI and Martha. Oh, sorry. I was... Martha, go ahead.
Martha Frummelt. I'm a proud parent of 3 graduates of the district, an IPI board member, and a longtime Fine Arts Booster group volunteer. And tonight I have 2 announcements to share with you. The first has to deal with a question that I've been mulling over. Do we really need to know how to spell in this era of spell check?
Yes.
I'm glad to see some heads nod. But as you would imagine, I turn to an artist to help me answer that question. And I have to share with you a wonderful poem. I'm not going to read it out loud because some of it is
not inappropriate.
Is not inappropriate, but
okay.
Some of it is funny. And this particular artist, slam poet Taylor Molly, was a middle school teacher and wrote a wonderful poem called The Impotence of Proofreading, which will give you a resounding yes as to why we need to know how to spell. So I will share that with you. You can take your copy and read it during quiet moments of this board meeting, though I doubt that there are ever any quiet moments. Why am I talking about spelling? Because the wonderful annual event of IPEI, the Adult Spelling Bee, where adult and high school teams come together to raise money for teacher grants, is happening on March 2nd, 2 o'clock at the Wellness Gym. I invite you to mark your calendars and, more importantly, to come up with a team to challenge last year's winners, the Fine Arts Words Boosters. And
say that again.
The Fine Arts Word Boosters. And come and raise money for the grants we give out to teachers. It's a wonderful event. We need you as audience members, as team members, as sponsors, and I encourage you and invite you to come. I will give you a team form, because I know there was a wonderful team that came last year, and also the other pertinent facts. And I thank our wonderful sponsors who enable this event to happen, one of which is Wells Fargo. So I encourage you to come to this great Sunday afternoon of fun and spelling, and it will be confirmed to you why you do need to know how to spell, and you should not depend on spell check. Here's a little poster for the board building and elsewhere.
I'm sorry.
Spelling bee.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Super.
And my
That was your commitment.
my other wonderful announcement has to do with the great work that IPI and the Arts Boosters like to do, which is connecting school and community. And that is in relationship to a partnership with the State Theater and their presentation of the dance group Galumpha during Teachers Recess Week on February 15th at 3 o'clock. And due to the great partnership and IPI's partial sponsorship of this event, Galumpha will be visiting IHS's modern dance class on February 14th, right before the break. And that will be a wonderful experience in collaboration with the artistic director of that group, Andy Horowitz, who's going to come and work with those students. So I encourage you to go to that and support our teachers during Teacher Week. And in that vein, the State Theater and IPI have a ticket for you, and students included, I'll pass these around, take one, and you can be an attender or an influencer and share this with somebody else. So thank you very much for your time. There's great things happening in our community. People spelling to raise funds for our teachers, as well as dancing and art making happening. And I appreciate the work that you do. And thanks for the time.
Thanks, Martha. Lots of stuff. And always glad to be a corporate sponsor because that means I don't have to spell. So pay for the privilege of watching others do that. So that's great. Thanks, Martha, and IPEI for all that you do. And next up will be Cindy Milner, I believe. Oh, there's Cindy.
Yeah, so two things in my 30 seconds. I'm here to support the athletic director's proposal tonight for a few select sports, modified sports to merge with Elizabeth and McCoon, Montessori, and ICSD. And then secondly, to thank you for supporting the merger in the fall. 3 Montessori kids participated in the modified cross-country program, one of which was my daughter, and just an amazing experience for her and for the other kids, and I think it'll really help with all of them as they transition to Ithaca High School next year.
Great, thanks, Sam. And well, Jeff, you signed up, but you're on the agenda, so we'll let you speak in a few minutes. Anyone else wish to speak at this time? Otherwise, we'll move on, which we will. And on to student reps and Rosie, LACS. How are we going to do it?
All right. I'll go first today. So last week, ACS had its winter concert. The orchestra, the band, and the Celtic band all performed, and I hear that it was great. I didn't get a chance to go, but a lot of people attended and I enjoyed it a lot. We also had an open house lunch last week where community members, parents could come and see an all-school meeting happen, see what that's like. And that seemed to go successful. I saw a number of people who aren't usually there attend it, and I thought it went very well. The lunch afterwards was great, and there was a lot of positive feedback. And then during that all-school meeting, our school voted to start a new feminism committee at our school. One of the seniors, her name Sheila Brown, is starting this with a senior project, and so that's going to work on doing some activism both within the school community and in the local Tompkins County community as well. So that's something that's really exciting coming up.
Tomorrow, our student-led parent-teacher conferences are starting, and these are student-led, which is really empowering for the students, and almost 100% of the parents attend these hour-long meetings, which is a really integral part of our community and really important to us. This week is Regents Week for us, and we had an ELA test for 11th graders, and the Inquiry and Tools 6th grade math class had a math fair to show off what they've been doing the past semester. All students have turned in their evals, their self-evaluations, after the website was a little bit glitchy over the past week, and teachers will have submitted all of theirs by tonight, and the evaluations will be read at the student-led conferences over the next couple of days, which is also a really important part of the conferences for the parents to get to know what the students have been doing.
Great. Excited? Oh, good. Good. Ithaca High.
Cookies and Cram was last Thursday, hosted by the Ithaca High School Link Crew, and that was a big success, helping the freshmen study for their first big testing week in high school. Link Crew also had a Moe's fundraiser, where 15% of the proceeds from each purchase where the slip was shown to the cashier was donated to the Ithaca High School's Link Crew to continue their wonderful acts. Also for Link Crew, the past week, Link Crew leaders handed out candy and encouraging messages before the freshman's exam week to give them a little bit of more confidence. And auditions for the Ithaca High School Cabaret Night, which is hosted by the Ithaca High School Orchestra, and that's a big fundraiser for them. Those auditions will be February 6th and 7th after school.
Next Monday and Tuesday, advanced tickets for the Winter Formal, which will be a Museum of the Earth where you can dance with dinosaurs from 8 to 11. It'll be on sale for a discounted price of $15, and Connor has some more information about that.
Okay, everyone. It's been 42 days, 1,008 hours, 60,480 minutes since I last addressed this board. And it's good to be back. December 17th, 2013 of last year is when I was here last. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Happy New Year, Happy National Hot Tea Month, Happy National Bath Safety Month. Okay. Midterms week has commenced. This is a big deal. This is a time unfortunately plagued with stress, but the resources such as in and out of class review sessions that are happening incredibly frequently and show student and staff devotion, as well as help ease the panic caused by these important times that include in English Regents, midterms, finals, and Regents for retake. As this presses on, good luck. During testing week, whether it be Regents or midterms, operations at the high school simply aren't at a norm. Teachers are tasked with hall duties and they're all very structured. Transportation changes to accommodate testing. So as well as various others have been getting the word out that the resources for carrying yourself as a student out in a way that are present for your test, that you can get there and leave in a legal manner are present. I have confidence that our students and staff can do this. We're all in this together. Hey, note, the special ed department experiences a flurry every testing week. Margie Shaw is very competent and is unbelievably committed to getting students testing accommodations figured out, and this is 100% as a servant to the special ed department. And to all those in special ed and to those assist with that, thank you. One more note. The custodians have to prepare themselves in a way to accommodate testing, such as moving massive amounts of desks, etc. So just a heads up, thank you to our custodians. Our school district blue-collar workers are the backbone of our world. So let's get real. Thank a custodian. And ACS, I had the privilege of meeting both your custodians. And they're two wonderful, committed people who dedicate themselves to serving the school. So be sure to thank them. I'm sure you do, but they're good. All right, time to talk about social justice. Ithaca High School has been up to some truly sensational things to ensure all students from socioeconomic backgrounds are accounted for. Yay! These include reduced prices to winter formal, a dress drive for those who need dresses for winter formal, and a free lightly used cap and gown for graduation if it is needed. Thanks for all those involved. The day we stop pinching into account for all is the day we fall apart as a society. And in Ithaca High School, that ain't happening. Now, just a little thing, and I have these people's permission to use their name. 3 students.
Well, you don't have my permission.
The students.
I would prefer that you not use student names.
Student names, okay, fine. 3 students, anonymous students. 1 accepted to Harvard. 1 early decision. 1 accepted to Princeton, early decision. 1 accepted to West Point. Ladies and gentlemen, the acceptance rate for West Point is 8%. This student got a letter in the mail on behalf of the president, and it's a huge...
That's what happens when you get an appointment.
Yeah, and it's just an absolutely huge honor for those students, and I just wanted to mention that.
Good. Great.
Yeah, that's good.
We good? Well, board responses. Judy Max has a question.
When are the dates for the musical?
The spring musical.
Yeah.
Legally Blonde, I believe. Is
April 4th, 5th, and 6th, I think, or
Yeah.
so that weekend.
There's still
6th and
rehearsal
7th.
time,
Yes.
so, Judy.
So I'm not behind in my dance routine.
No, still plenty of sports to see and other things.
Tickets just sold out, though, Judy, let me tell you. I have to say, Connor, I have missed the previous 2 meetings, so this is my first interaction with you, and I greatly appreciated the lively delivery.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
No. And Connor, I appreciate it as well. We can have a free and open discussion. It's always nice. We like to hear from students. You know, we like a dialogue, and it's always better when instead of reading, you talk to us. And so certainly it's just as a point of we typically have a dialogue and communicate looking. So that's good. So we appreciate the lively updates, though. Certainly do. Anyone else right now? Board comments on anything? Brad, did you want anything at this point? Did you want to mention? Maybe later. Well, you said you're mentioning
forgetting
our staff through.
Oh heavens! Thank you.
I won't step on Brad's.
No,
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Thank you for reminding me. I wanted to thank Paul Alexander and his staff with the flooding that we had a couple weekends ago. You're aware that the parking lot flooded. We had frozen storm drains to the Fall Creek direction. I want to appreciate the fact the city assisted us with one of their large pumps. Believe it or not, they were able to pump it in another direction that was not frozen, headed to the lake, going the other way. So they were able to pump it. They had a small amount of water in the boiler room, nothing damaged. They were quick getting to that, and I was glad they were able to take care of that. So just appreciate the staff was here. Then on the Saturday night, it started to flood from the Fall Creek side, and they were able to get down here and get some pumps going that night as well. And while they didn't win the battle completely, they were able to keep the water out of the buildings until the stream went down. So we were successful in that regard, and pleased that the city was able to help. And I was happy to go fill sandbags in exchange for their pump. I guess that was the trade-off for it. But we were glad our staff was here, and want to appreciate the time they put in.
And it certainly wasn't 9 to 5.
No.
Middle of the night, really from Wednesday night through Sunday morning.
Yep.
Staff was doing yeoman's work in order to keep the buildings
keep them
dry and not floating. So, thanks again to all the staff that's involved over that weekend. If we're still in cold weather, and who knows, we can have more flooding to come. It depends on obviously the weather conditions. So, certainly echo Brad's comments. And anything else right now? We'll go on to consent agenda.
I'll move the consent as presented.
I'll second.
Second by Pat. Any questions?
Speak to it.
Go ahead, Brad.
I want to point out, Martha brought up IPEI, and here we are accepting 4 different grants from IPEI in tonight's consent agenda. So real direct connection right here, minutes later, to what they do. I think there were 2 to Bell Sherman, 1 to Boynton, and I think the other one was to Fall Creek. And I also saw that we're accepting a grant from the Toshiba America Foundation. We appreciate that. And I saw at LACS there was some money from I get the name right, the Readers Theater of Ithaca. So a number of different groups supporting our students and their activities and what they're doing. We appreciate that.
Okay. Anyone else? No other comments? All in favor? That's everyone? And Sean can raise one hand? No, I mean,
I appreciate it, Rob. I'm with you.
Sean just making me hurt just thinking about it. So Dr. Brown, I think we are indeed ready for you, finally.
Just one item. Thank you for your time. Received a letter from the New York State School Boards Association, and over the years I've had an opportunity to recognize multiple board members for achieving as part of the School Board Youth Recognition Program. And so we have yet another recognition for a great volunteer on our board. Mr. Elgin Harris is receiving the Board Achievement Award for a leadership development training session that he attended. And here's a nice... Yes, you did. Nice, beautiful certificate that I can't wait to see. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Suitable for framing. That's great. That's what happens when you go to the annual meeting.
I was there. I showed up.
Again, I appreciate Mr. Harris and all the board members for the many hours you put in to serving young people in our community. So thank you. You were welcome.
That's it, Dr. Brown?
That's it for now. I'm on a little later.
Oh, okay. All right. We will defer to later. And so we'll go on to school district business. And first item up is certainly the athletics merger with Montessori.
I promise it'll be a lot quicker than the last time I was here.
And good to see you, Danielle.
Hi, how are you? Hopefully it'll be quicker.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. So I'm here to ask for a merger with the Montessori School for girls and boys track and girls and boys lacrosse for the spring.
For modified.
Modified.
All those sports modified, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Girls and boys modified lacrosse, girls and boys modified track.
Yep.
Although I don't know that right now the interest level is really geared towards track. Lacrosse is another sport that they don't cut. So if one of the students changes their mind and wants to go out, it would be available to them.
Go ahead, Pat Henry.
I guess I have questions about the numbers of students on the modified boys and girls lacrosse team now, and whether there are any contentious positions that I will hear about from parents.
So last year our modified boys lacrosse team was very large. I think it was 32. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it was about 32 players. Very big. This year we have the ability to have 2 teams. So right now with the interest level, talking to the coach, it doesn't sound like we're at 2 teams yet. But if we did have interest level, we have a coach ready to hire, and we have the ability to schedule 2 teams. So that would not be an issue this year. If we have an influx of students, there's only 20 students, I think, for 7th and 8th grade at Montessori. So if 3 or 4 of them came out, it would actually help us field 2 teams instead of the 1.
And how about
girls? Girls is there's always been plenty of room on the roster. I think they had 14 on the team last year, which is a little low.
Other questions?
And I don't know for this year because we haven't started signing up. So these are all last year members. So.
Do you know?
I don't know. I don't have that.
I don't even know what contentious positions in lacrosse would be, but I'm sure there are some. Goalie.
I would assume that. That I don't know. I know right now the JV at the varsity level, we have no goalie at the varsity level. So I know the coach is really committed to getting more females interested in playing goalie because we're struggling at the JV varsity level to have goalies. So if we had an influx in modified, we'd make it work because we need more.
The attractiveness of being a goalie in lacrosse is slightly less than standing there and being. It's not the.
And like I said, from what I was speaking to Montessori, they don't have any students interested in lacrosse right now, but it's a possibility.
So it's not a numbers issue on our end.
Right. No.
And track, it's the more the
merrier.
The more the merrier.
Everybody runs.
And last year we added an extra modified coach. So in the past we've only had 2. Last year we had 3, and this year we'll have 3 to help with those numbers.
The numbers for cross country and track are large, correct?
Yes.
So,
like
well,
50.
Right. So, but that does get to your point that there is adequate supervision, safety, et cetera, for the numbers that we have now.
And and the girls' team for track is quite smaller. So to add 2 additional girls to the track team, that would be great. I mean, that would work fine.
Any other comments, questions?
I'll move the athletic director be empowered to move ahead with a merger with EAC Montessori for modified boys and girls lacrosse and modified boys and girls track.
Second.
Anything else? Chris, Pat, you good?
I'm good.
All right, all in favor? That is everyone, and Seth is absent, so we are counting 8. Very good.
I'm heading up to hockey game, so
Good,
have a
great.
great meeting. I'll see you later.
Good.
Great.
Who are we playing?
Skinny Atlas. Up at the rink. Don't worry, I'll tweet out the score.
Good. Thank you. So, and next up, we're having the opportunity to have a conversation with BOCES, and in representing BOCES certainly is Jeffrey Madison. So please step up.
I will step up. Thank you very much. Consider it a tremendous opportunity to speak with you guys.
So Jeff, you've been at BOCES about a year.
8 months.
8 months. So
Seems longer.
we had an opportunity to meet you briefly, but as we're going through our processes and planning for the future and for the opportunities for the kids in this district and how we're going to create our education programs, I think it was thought that would be a pretty good idea to hear from BOCES and what your vision was and how we make it all work. So. Did you have anything you wanted to say, Dr. Brown, before we got going? Well, very good. Thanks, Jeff.
Maybe the best thing to do first is to hand out some recent work by the TST BOCES board, and it is their board goals, which you can have enough for everybody. Just so you can get an idea for where we're going. Basically, what we did was came to the door, wanted to get a feel for the entire organization, had one-on-ones with all of the board members, one-on-ones with all of our component superintendents, visited all of the components, boards, interviewed every single employee, looked obviously at all of our service offerings, looked at the service offerings at other BOCES, obviously had my own orientation of what we need to be attempting to do with the mission of BOCES in general, and that dual role of being the shared service facilitator for our component school districts, but also that role we play as kind of a representative of the state education department in the field and interpret policy of the state ed department and translate that to our components and help them hopefully with compliance, but also dealing with compliance so that they can also get to excellence, because we all know that there's times where compliance is the enemy of excellence, and that we've got to do the right things for kids. So in looking at that and looking at our own organization, we had a lot of conversations around several gap areas that were identified through that process. One major glaring one was sticking out for us was in the area of technology, and I'm talking about both the hardware backbone part of things, but also technology integration and the availability of instructional technology to students that come to our campus, and the support we are giving to technology integration out in the component school districts. So recognizing that immediately, we brought in the Witty RIC, which is a Western New York RIC out of Erie One BOCES, to do a technology audit for our entire BOCES. We just recently received that audit and a presentation in January, and have a tech committee form that into a multi-year plan to get ourselves situated to be in a better place with technology. And you'll see that one of our goals, number 3, was to maintain a level of technology access and integration for students and staff that's current and will provide state-of-the-art technology-related service opportunities to our students and our clients. We want to be able to serve you better. We want to be able to serve all of our components better. Truthfully, TST BOCES, as of today, is not a leader in that area. And we need to be a leader in that area because it is a growth area for all of our component school districts. Whether you agree with $2 billion potential bond issue coming from the governor or not, what they have recognized is there truly is a have-not scenario when it comes to information technology and technology integration and instruction in our state. And it is one attempt to find a remedy to that problem. And by having a distribution that's tied to just like the Foundation Aid formula with that bond. So that's one area I feature because it is a growing strength of your district, and we certainly have received excellent information and modeling from your superintendent, and I've had several discussions with Dr. Brown, and we have a very excited administration on our campus about what we are going to do about resituating ourselves and reintroducing ourselves to our extended community. And I'll get to that a little bit more later as well. But you also see that we want to be a viable quality educational choice, and that is with all of our instructional programs for our students. So we want to have excellence there. We do have some excellent programs there. One of the things that you'll see, though, if you look down at number 5, is we're building an annual program assessment. But right now, everything we say about what's excellent in our program is all anecdotal. We haven't been measuring it as an organization, and we haven't been reporting out things that we said that are excellent, that are measurable, and place where we have growth areas so we can allocate funding to grow in those areas. So we're continuing that look at ourselves and getting measurable data that will come from people who are interacting with our organization, come from our component school districts, and also come from students and clients who interact with our organization. So we want to measure it, and we want to report it out, because you can't just take people's word for it that things are working. You need to really look at this closely. So those are very much tied. You know, we can't say that we want to be the educational choice if we're not going to measure it and report it out. You can't say the educational choice unless you have a standard you're trying to meet. We also want to grow. One area where we do know that we have served or provided our components well and have gotten a lot of feedback from our school districts is in the area of professional development. We have a solid team in the instructional services area, and we want to continue to support that group. The superintendents have asked us to continue to support that group at a very high level, at the same level we have through the Race to the Top. Our leader in that area is retiring, so we'll be undergoing a search, and we'll be searching for a very talented individual to fill that, because we don't want to take a step back, since that is a strength area for us. And I will say that area is probably the best area as far as collaboration in our region, and has been the cause for our region having relative peace when it comes to all things Common Core as compared to other regions of the state. Because from early on, our components and our instructional service folks got together early and decided to support each other. Teachers were sent to get the training. We have a very large math coaches network. We have a very large literacy network. We have a solid inclusion program. We have what I consider very strong now, who came on board last June, instructional services person around special education. And with everybody working together, and what they had did together in building APPR plans and the assessments to go along those APPR plans kept anxiety at a tolerable level. Is there anxiety in the system? Absolutely. Has it overtaken our systems in our region? Absolutely not. And the dialogue continues, and whenever we see something we call it against, we have recommendations for modifying, and we will grease the skids that we can with the APPR police and the state ed department whenever possible. But we have not had the same kind of acrimony everywhere. So I really tee that up as that professional development group, but the leadership of our components supporting that, saying their teacher, the cooperation of your teacher leaders who've done an excellent job, not just in your school districts, but throughout our 9 components. And it continues to be very strong. Every training we hold in line with this area is packed. We have people showing up constantly. It's a very busy place. It is buzzing in training that area, and we feel like things are going very well, which causes me a lot of fear when I watch what's happening in the rest of the state, and the movement to pause, to slow some things down, to radically change some of the approaches, because quite frankly, the implementation of the entire state has not been like our experience. So we just have to watch that with a cautious eye and remind the folks that represent us that we just want to not throw the good stuff out if they're going to do some modifications or adjustments moving forward. We also want to convene opportunities for standardization of economies of scale. What that means is really shared services in many ways possible. One of the pieces that's coming down right now is we have 7 of our 9 component districts signed on to a transportation study, a regional study, and we have 2 neighboring school districts who have joined us for that. This is an indicator of how well things work in this region and how well school districts work together in this region. I'll just give you an example. Last region I was on, with the neighboring BOCES with 21 school districts. When we try to do a regional transportation study, we can only get 8 out of 21 to sign on to get with that study. Our small region with 9 components and 2 neighbors, we have 9 school districts signed on to our regional study. So the participation, the interest in ensuring that we are maximizing efficiencies, especially in those areas that don't affect the classroom, like transportation, is a great sign in our region, and it shows a lot of the professionalism that there is in this region as well. And the care and concern, hey, we want to make sure that we are doing right by the taxpayers and using every dollar very wisely. And you'll also see finally that we are going to be making a report on how things went with our move of the regional alternative school up to the BOCES campus. I will tell you that we had a 30% growth in student attendance to that program, and that has certainly caused some adjustments, and we have met with the superintendents and talked about how we're going to support that program a little bit more to ensure we can manage the students so they're not able to distract each other's opportunity to learn in that program. Just so you know, in every program we have, even on the BOCES campus tied with instruction, they all have the same Common Core line training. Even if they're going to use a state module in a special ed classroom, it is modified for that level of student. And we're very fortunate, our instructional services personnel are very highly trained and can help us modify those. They go into our classrooms, observe to ensure that it's taking hold. Our CTE teachers are using instructional shifts tied to the Common Core in their classrooms so they can support what's happening in the regular ed classroom and students go back to their home districts. So we're on board with all the state initiative along lines of Common Core instructional shifts as well to ensure that our students don't leave their home districts and have a different experience with instruction than they would, or else they might as well stay here. So that's where we're putting a lot of effort and energy. This is a major initiative for these folks. TSD BOCES really kind of had a near-death experience, I call it, when you had a district superintendent lead, and they always analyze whether they're going to keep that BOCES open or whether they're going to have it merge. And then there was an extra year searching for a district superintendent, so they kind of were on a pause button for 2 years. And you know what happens whenever an organization stands still? It doesn't get better. It always loses ground because there's too many environmental forces coming at you to be able to move forward. So we're now in growth mode. I'm happy to report that with our initial service requests from our components, we not only held where we were a year ago, we have grown. And we're going to be doing more for districts, and we're looking to continue to do that moving forward. And the dialogue is open. We're open for whatever folks want to have us look at, see if we can support the districts. We're training up our administrators to be able to be as responsive as possible. We're small enough that what I say is we should be much more nimble than a larger BOCES. We should be able to respond quickly. We should say, Friday, we're going to do something and be able to do it on Monday. So Along with the lines with that, we are studying and going to put in place an administrative reorganization to ensure that we have the right people in the right places. And when you have retirements and folks moving on, those are opportunities, and we will have that rolled out within the next couple months. So there's a brief report for you.
Go ahead, Jude.
When you were here last time, your introduction, I asked you about plans to include 9th and 10th graders being able to go to BOCES. Has that been discussed and worked on, or?
We actually do have some that do come to 9th and 10th, and there's oftentimes there's a unique experience where we'll get a call from a principal. Could you take this kid, he's a sophomore, let's give him a try, he's not working, but they're not in a position where they belong in an alternative school or a turning point. They just need something to get them hooked, and maybe we can do a longer, and we have been flexible on that area. I believe that because of the new CDOS credential, that you're going to see much more 9, 10, 11, 12, because it's now going to be, there's a 4-year pathway now for that kind of student. We would make the case that every student ought to be able to have the opportunity to have that 4-year pathway. We have had the toughest time getting the Board of Regents to get consensus around that issue. And one of the problems is that you may recall about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, they kind of fumbled the ball in introducing a CTE pathway, because what they did was they talked about CTE pathway replacing one of the Regents exams, giving it to be an alternative to taking the global studies. Yes. And unfortunately, the way they articulated it was, well, it's because more kids fail that one. That's the one we ought to replace. And so people thought we weren't going to test global studies anymore, and everyone knows, we live in a global economy. You can't lower the bar on global studies. Lots of pushback. Social studies teachers up in arms, rightfully so. And so the Board of Regents just kind of snaked it on the CTE pathways issue. So now the other end of the spectrum has come, and we have an assemblyman and a senator introducing a bill to have a CTE diploma, which we would prefer to have it be a pathway to a diploma, not a standalone diploma, because we know that a student that goes through CTE that also have the rigors of a liberal arts education is going to do much better in their career. We don't want that to be missing. We don't want it watered down. We want strong academics tied to our CTE pathways. So we're trying to articulate that with those legislators, that we don't want to go the other way and force a separate diploma. We want this college and career stream to work hand in hand, and this would be another pathway, not a replacement of a strong academic program.
Go ahead.
How would you begin to rate your performance in having students be career ready? What does that look like?
Well,
it almost assumes some placement, and it's a matter to follow up.
You have to do placement. You have to follow where the students are going, and we have to do a better. We have to actually. Most places have nothing in place to follow them in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So that's part of the whole assessment systems. Okay, it's been a year they're out. Where are the kids, and what are they doing? And then we report that out to our board, report that out regionally, so folks know. And then you backward map and you adjust to your findings. So absolutely. The data's out there, it's getting it all in one place. And you can stay connected with the kids for a few years. It's just making sure we can follow them and communicate with them effectively. So absolutely, we need to know, are they still in their college, which is still a preparation for a career? Mm-hmm. Have they gone out to a career? Are they at a 2-year place? Are they at some kind of technical school? If they're in the military, what are they doing in the military? Is there a particular technical skill they're being trained in the military, and what will that lead to? We should get that information and measure ourselves on that. I'll give you a perfect example of how you have to think about things a little bit differently. When we put some of these metrics out about our programming, in our Turning Point program for special education, their measurement of their success is how many students they can return to the school districts, not how long they stay in our programs and how many more kids we can put into that program.
Right.
We want to be able to be successful with them so they can enter back into the regular school setting and still be successful and then not have to come back to our program. And that's a different way of thinking than schools of special education have always thought. And I think that's a hopeful sign that we're not going to say a person goes to this program, they're stuck there forever, they got sent out to Siberia, never to be seen again. We want those kids brought back into the regular student population.
Same holds true for if the kid takes a machinist job or if they're working hard or changing brakes in Midas, you're going to follow them.
Yep, we have to follow them. Yeah. Because if we're missing the mark on the program then we've got to change the program.
Jeff, as you know, I came up and had the pleasure of seeing the alternative school in action and appreciated the chance to do that. I see you've got that as one of your 6 board goals, is reviewing that. Are you looking to expand that? Are you looking to change admission requirements? Where do you think you're headed with that right now?
Yeah, I think that's one of the conversations we're having. I think the decision we made was to support it a little bit more for another year while we look at some admission requirements. Part of the problem with, when you put too many admission requirements on, you're kind of closing the door.
Right.
And it's an opportunity a kid might not have. Well, if you're going to close the door a little bit, then you need to open up a different door. So if that child isn't going to be in there, what are we replacing that program with? Because the school district still needs an option. And as a region, we need to say, okay, there's got to be more than one kid like this. If we're going to narrow this door a little bit, okay, if we're going to have a group of students, how are we going to meet the needs of those students so that student doesn't end up on a bus going 100 miles or stuck in a home instruction mode. So those are tough conversations to have. So right now our choice is we're not going to narrow that door. We're going to support it a little bit more because we still have room for growth. We're in the low 90s in attendance, and we can take 125 up there.
So you've got room at the moment.
So we've got room if we want to add some more students. Yep.
Very well. But it seems like the issue is not the room, it's the reading level of success. So
yeah, we want to see
the program is not as successful as you wish it to be, or
we don't know yet. We have the metrics for the number of students who are getting the Regents diplomas, how they're doing on performance on exams, how they're doing in performance grade-wise. So we want to track that over time. We anticipate it dropping a little bit this year because of a 30% increase in students and some of the challenging behaviors we had. Then we have to okay, how are we going to be successful with these students and modify a few things. One of the things we know we have to do is give them a little bit more support, especially around the counseling end. So we're putting some people in place to do that. We have a lot of counselors 100 feet away in our neighboring Smith school, so we're working on what are some ways of sharing and getting folks together to support those kids. But yeah, we'll look at all of those metrics that any other school district would look at to measure the success of their academic program.
Other questions?
You mentioned increasing technological access. What's your timeline? You said a couple of years. Is that 2 or is that?
Yeah, well, there's multiple issues there. You got your backbone issues to make sure that anything we introduce is going to work effectively. Because one of the things we found is there's not a lot of faith in the people of our organization. Stuff we're going to give them is going to work. And that was more of an experience from 10 years ago when that was absolutely true. Stuff that people tried to use, even getting down to email, was not working. And they made some major adjustments, and some of those basic things are working, but you have a large group of staff still there that have this fear that if they commit to technology integration, that they can't rely on the technology. So we're going to have to get some of the prophets and the old lamb stuff going on and getting more teachers involved as pilots. We have done a lot of work on the backbone, had a major investment over this last summer, and now we're seeking out those teachers who are interested in expanding some things, and we're investing in them. We do not have 100% wireless on our campus, and we're going to gradually get there over a 3-year period. One of the reasons we don't want to do it in 1 year is because the licenses on the wireless access points come up every 5 years. We don't want a huge financial thing every 5 years, and we want to phase it, so we just turn things over and make sure we're using folks' money wisely. Then you've got the issue of the actual devices in people's hands, the training that goes along. We found that we've had some gaps in the training of the stuff that we have today. So we got to start with, okay, here's all the stuff that we have today. It is very reliable, and here's how you use it. Now, here's some other best practice devices, best practice use of those devices. I need this many people from each of these programs to give this a try. We'll support you, we'll measure it, have you report out to your colleagues, and spread it on the campus. Then there's the other piece of, we have a technology integrator that goes out in the school districts, and we're getting more demand there. And so we need to look at that area, the growth area. How do we provide more support in that area to the school districts? So it's not just the stuff internally in our own organization, but also making sure we're serving the districts at a high level as well.
Are there other questions?
Oh, on point number 1, it said data or up-to-date research based on college and career ready. And then it says curricular offerings and cutting-edge services. What curricular offerings are you thinking?
I think it's more in the CTE area is what we're talking about, especially in the STEM field. I think we definitely want to expand in those areas. We're doing some benchmarking with other BOCES. We're doing some communicating with our components, people who might be interested in this. We've got sustainable energy type interest out there. It's just gauging how much interest because we have to get a little more interest to make sure we have enough students so we can support the program and allow these kids to focus, because it will lead to a career. Those will. We have some hospitality issues in this area that people would like some more training on. And, so we're looking at a lot of these areas that will help keep kids and their families in this region, if at all possible. But also look at, I say, let's look at the 100-mile radius, what's available to students. I know it'd be great to keep everyone in Tompkins County, but we also want to just serve our students so they can have a successful life after they leave us in their K-12 experience, what happens after 2 years, what happens after 4 years. We'd love for them to stay in the state of New York.
To that point, Jeff, I mean, we hear all the time from Albany, from the Commissioner of Education about public education needing to provide opportunities for students to be college and career ready, and we focus a fair amount on the college readiness, and the career piece is what we've been struggling with. Over the next 5 years, what is public education going to look like in order to provide those opportunities for students to right after college or training in whatever way to stay in upstate New York in order to make a viable, frankly, upstate New York and viable New York State. The basic question is, I think we all grapple with is BOCES going to be able to fill that piece, that career piece, or is that something that we're going to have to be much more involved with, or really changing evolving our curriculum so we are meeting more of that need. And the question of whether, we realize that our local BOCES was not going anywhere for a few years. So how do we plan over the next period of years to ensure that we're providing what students in our public education needs locally? I mean, is BOCES going to be the answer, or
it's going to be both? I really do.
We're going to have both.
There will be some that we will support you in doing on your own, and there'll be some stuff that we can provide for the region, and that is because Every school does have a couple little interest differences than others, and we may not be able to have enough students for a full regional program, but you'd be able to do that locally. We would like to be able to move a few things out to districts, not giving up BOCES responsibility, but so that students don't have to travel. And if we can do some satellite type situations, we will do that. If we do, say, a pre-engineering program, we want to have it hosted in a local school districts and have other students from around the region able to attend, and one of the schools has the space to do that, we shouldn't then be bonding for BOCES to build the new place when we can do it out. We may have a person may be both our employee and maybe a local school district employee. When you think out of the box on things, there's always contractual issues with those challenges. But I think good sense usually wins out in the end, and folks will want to be able to make things happen for kids. But the state education department also needs to get focused on what they really mean on college and career ready as well.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not trying to be hyper critical about it, but here they have blinders once in a while. They get that, and they want to see the career end things happen, and they understand the pathways to prosperity research. They understand that the majority of the jobs require either a trade school education or a community school education, and we need to ramp up to make that happen. And then they come, they make a presentation, and they say they want to talk about how they're going to retrain guidance counselors. And the first thing they do is hold a symposium with higher ed to make sure guidance counselors know how to guide students correctly to get into four-year schools. And we're like, you're giving us communication whiplash when you do stuff like that. That's still important. We want to make sure that's done right for our four-year college-bound students. But also, if we're going to have true alignment of the education system to the career portion of that, we've got to make sure the policies that are carried out, that we're going to train people up in the profession, also have alignment. And we don't have those blinders that it's only a four-year degree, when a two-year degree is going to take care of about 70% of the jobs. And we don't steer kids there. We give them the 4 years, lots of debt, and then they go back and they can take a job that either needs a high school education or a two-year education. Need better alignment on that.
Sure. Jay, go ahead.
I got a very specific question, Jeff. Over the last few years, BOCES, in regards to CTE, was trying to see if they couldn't provide on the campus some teachers in the required courses of math and English and such, so that all that drive time back and forth to their schools could be reduced. And how's that initiative gone? And now you have this alternative school that maybe brought some of those teachers. I don't know. So how's that going?
We have gotten additional approvals for integrated coursework, and we're communicating those with the local school districts, particularly in the math and science area. And we continue to seek approvals from the state education department to add those. What's interesting is oftentimes BOCES get permission to do that, and then the school district's a little bit concerned about approving those courses and giving them credit because they're concerned that it's not rigorous enough. The best way for us to overcome that is to get the deciders in the local school districts to come see the program, make them feel comfortable about the rigor that's going on academically in those programs. So we do have a lot of integrated courses available and credits available. We're not a credit-bearing institution. The local school district still needs to decide we are going to accept the credit, just like a college decides if they're going to accept dual enrollment credit or AP credit or whatever. We're in the same scenario with our components.
So how far, I appreciate that background. So, how well is it going? Are you, halfway to where you want to be?
I would say halfway. We feel good about where we are with the math and science, but we don't feel quite as good about where we are with the ELA.
Is our school district a problem?
No. Okay. No. These are normal things to get through. Okay. Being committed to making sure your children have the best educational experience is not a bad thing. It's our job to overcome the challenges and make sure folks feel comfortable with what we're offering. So, no problems with people questioning or being concerned about that or the standards that are held. We want to make sure it is a very high standard because we care about what happens to the kid too.
I think Ithaca might have less of that transportation issue because we're so much closer than some of these other districts where the kids are on the bus for too long going each way. Not in the classroom.
Other questions?
I just want to, on the transportation study, is that to foster mergers between school districts? Is that one of the reasons?
Probably the transportation.
Yeah, the transportation portions. One of the things we have a lot of interest in is there's a lot of people who have trouble getting mechanics for their buses, and several people who have transportation directors that are coming to retirement age, and there's not this whole group of people who want to backfill that. And so, knowing it's coming, we're trying to be proactive and say, well, let's look at it first, see what the lay of the land is, get the data behind us, and then make a good regional decision about, okay, how are we going to meet the mechanic need? How are we going to meet the transportation leadership need? Who's going to work on the buses? Where are we going to store the buses? We're a tight enough region that we can do a lot more together in that area, and I think it'll be a growth area for us. We think some of that stuff is really going to happen. But I think it's really important to get the data in front of boards of education, in front of your superintendents, so we don't just do the cardiac test. It feels good to us to share. You know, it feels good in my heart that we actually have the information.
Sounds like job opportunities.
Yes.
Are we part of it?
Yep.
Jobs for those who want to pursue them. Anything else for Jeff?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Start with that. Your alternative school, Jeff, have you had any connection problems, issues with the New Roots school that's down here in Ithaca? Is there any? No, it doesn't. You don't bump into you don't have kids leaving your program going one way or another.
Well, the only real connection we have is them is we will store the readings exams for them. And they will, just like some of our components will come and collect those to go initially. They don't have a safe that we do, but not really. One thing I will tell you is our web presence is going to change this fall. We have a major upgrade that needs to happen in that area. It is a less than stellar web presence that we have. And, you'll see us expand our use of social media. It is the way we introduce ourselves to our community. We will be reintroducing ourselves this fall. So that's also part of that work that technology committee is working on as well. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of shifting that's going to happen. Please be patient with us while we do that, but we are getting reoriented.
We are somewhat familiar with new website rollouts. I'm not saying anything more than that. Jeff, really just, I guess this last thing, you mentioned several times about increasing support in various areas. Support, as we know, means more dollars dedicated. Resources to do that. You're under the same pressures as anyone else, any other entity within the education universe in upstate New York. How do you see your the availability of money to do what you need to do?
As long as we get the share, we can get the money. We actually are, while we're conservatively funded, we're in good shape financially compared to a lot of BOCES. We do not right now have the real serious legacy cost issues that some BOCES have. There's some BOCES that are in real challenging situations with their administrative budgets, because what happens is, no matter what their program is, and usually your administrative budget is less than 10% of your total budget, but everyone that retires in the rest of the program, the other 90%, their retirement costs the following year go into the administrative budget. They don't stay in the program budget. And so there's Nassau, BOCES, some of these other ones, it's exploding. We're not in that situation, and we also, I think in our contracts, are a little bit more secure, and it's not going to explode quite as quickly, but it is an area of concern for all school districts and all BOCES in the state. The reason it's so obvious in a BOCES is because the only budget that boards vote on is that administrative budget. So it's like this big number that people will see right up front. We're not in that situation right now. So we don't have this huge outlay coming from our districts toward the administration of a BOCES so that they can put it in the program. So that's why I feel a little bit better about if there's a need for a program, we can probably get something started with this year because we're not using so much money in that other area.
Great. I think that's probably a good place to end it on an up note, and it's been very, very helpful, Jeff, and appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Jeff. So Dr. Brown, we're gonna switch focus back to ICSD and perhaps a mid-year update.
All right, now
or a recap.
I may need to get the light so that we can see this board. Well, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Martin Salota, maybe I'll take an opportunity to thank you for the work of leadership. You've allowed for the conversation to be elevated in our community around what is student achievement. When going back to my notes, we've discussed how we're doing qualitative and quantitative data at every meeting. Much of that conversation has been rich around qualitative information that leads to student achievement, and we've shared some other indicators. This board has also led a conversation where we've established not only a vision and a mission, but priorities that have accompanying metrics. Those metrics encompass much more than a standardized test score. So when looking at tweets, looking at articles, looking at blog posts over the last few weeks, and I think Jeff alluded to that, when folks talk about student achievement throughout our country, it always comes down to an individual test score that's submitted once a year, that most folks don't have much confidence in whether or not it's a valid and reliable assessment. I know I'm talking about this during Regents Week, but I apologize for that. But the beauty about having this conversation during Regents Week is that we don't see that one test as an indicator of our academic achievement. And we have that out there in a very public and transparent way as well. We continue to get calls weekly from folks who are online, and our website has the annual report card, the equity report card, which has been there for many, many years now, where we look at some key annual indicators. That was remarkable, and it was one of the things that I noticed about Ithaca well before I even knew I would ever come to where it's 0 degrees most days. I knew that. But now we've actually, again, elevated the conversation where we look at achievement metrics quarterly. And folks call every day because now on our website we have what we call as a balanced scorecard where folks can go in and see quarterly metrics and manipulate the data. So if you have an interest in a particular group or a particular group of students or a population, you can see where that particular population is performing. And you can see where they're performing year to year, quarter to quarter. So with that, I want to again thank the board for allowing us to look at achievement in such a different way, in a way in which we feel is a much better indicator of where young people are. Tonight, instead of going through all of the metrics, I did want to highlight just a few areas, particularly around the two key Board of Education priorities, culture of excellence and equity, where we, again, have established some key metrics that are giving us an indication of where young people are. And maybe helpful to see, I think I put something in your Dropboxes that will be a bit clearer. What I want to do here, and we know that attendance rates are an indication of achievement, an indication of engagement levels, and an indication of what we do with young people, the relationships we build. And the goals and metrics that we've established, Jim Collins refers to them as BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. Some of the metrics that we've established are reach goals in some regards, and you're going to see where we, in some cases, exceeded some of those goals, and in some cases we have a bit of a ways to go, but in the spirit of achieving excellence. You see what I'm showing here now is a 3-year trend, and I'm showing you the first quarter up until now where we are as a district. You'll see we were going after a 95+% rate for the district attendance rate, and we know the research supports district with 95+ attendance rate is one that's achieving very well for the majority of its young people. And you'll see we've been at pretty much a 94% attendance rate. It's been rather flat. At the end of the first quarter, you see we're exceeding that metric. Now, well, we're at the metric at a 95% attendance rate. We hope that continues. Policies have been put in place, regulations have been put in place, things we've done at the high school, across the district, as far as staffing, support, and regulations have contributed to us increasing our achievement rates, attendance rates, from my perspective. Then tardy, we know, let me go back, I went too far there. Give me 1 second. District-wide tardy rate. This was another reach goal source, to have a tardy rate that was less than 4%. And you'll see where we have been. We have been exceeding that target. Last year, at the end of the year, we had a 4% annual tardy rate, which is where we want to be. And you'll see where we are right now as a district, right around 3.79. So again, we're on par to meet our aggressive metric, if not exceed it for the year. And here's the key one, and the conversation around the enrollment patterns was one that I was happy that we engaged in my first few months on the board, in the district. What does it look like as far as where our young people are and where they're enrolling in classes? APs, honors, accelerated courses. And yeah, you can't see it, it's not too bad. What I've done here is you'll see where we are, the target rate, 60%. We want 60% of our young people enrolled in our higher level classes, which again, that's an indication of a lack of tracking, an indication of relationships, and an indication of engagement with young people. For all students, we have exceeded that metric. We're at around 68% enrollment. Percent of our young people are enrolled in those higher level courses. The equity report card showed that we've had some significant achievement gaps when it comes to this particular metric, and we've done much to attempt to, I hate to say close the gap, but close and eliminate the gap that we have as far as enrollment patterns. And what you'll see is across our membership groups, we still haven't exceeded that very aggressive goal of having 60% of our young people in those membership groups enrolled in the high level classes, but you'll see that we are closing that gap significantly. And if this graph, and I tried to make it as simple as I could, but if you look at this, you'll see where we are as far as the end of 2012-13, and the beginning of 2012 and 13, the end of 2012-13, and then where we are now. And when looking at a graph or a chart like this, what we want to see is that from the beginning of the last year to the end of last year, you want to see some increases. And then you want to see us starting the year off better than where we ended the previous year, if that makes some sense to folks. And what you'll see across the board is, with the exception of special ed, where we were higher at the first quarter than we were at the first quarter last year, you'll see we've significantly increased our enrollment of young people in our high-level courses. That is an indication of what we offer, an indication of challenging young people, an indication of the relationships that we build. And Jared may speak to this later. We noticed in year one for me that we had a lot of our young people who would enroll in the first quarter. And then after the first week, the first quarter, we saw significant drops. So much so that we were having to redo schedules at the high school. So this indicator now, we're showing more and more young people enrolling throughout the year, is rather transformative. If I can speak as an elementary person to about a secondary issue that we've seen traditionally across the country when we look at enrollment patterns. So a key indicator of achievement for us, one that we are doing, we have much more work to do, but to see these kind of this kind of progress is encouraging for someone like myself. Yeah.
Jared, maybe the one to speak to this, but in my experience with this district, it was the teachers themselves who were discouraging the kids from doing the harder work in these classes. And that's just my experience. And it always shocked me. It shocked my friends, who also are African American, who had kids who we wanted to see stretch. So it's not just the kids. And this is one of those areas where, if we're going to be honest, it is certainly not just the kids, right? So I'm curious, from your perspective, what's shifted in the mindset of the teachers, and what supports are we providing on the ground to actually make this challenge something that the kids can navigate? And if we still have more work to do in both, fine, but you won't talk to many African American teachers in this, parents in this district who haven't had that experience with their children.
So to answer that, right, I think it's a two-part kind of answer. I would agree with you that we continue to have more work to do, right? I would not say that we have reached our zenith by any stretch of the imagination. However, one of the things we've worked on at the high school is creating a culture of intervention that exists across levels. For a very long time, the culture of intervention was predominantly around special ed or kids who had failed the state assessment. And that was the only kids who could get help or get support in the school, and it was mandated, you had to do it, and those kids were segregated and kind of relegated off to a different portion of the building. That culture has eliminated itself to a very large degree through our restructuring of the AIS services and programs. There's now concrete support in every single academic area for kids across the continuum. We've built relationships, much what Dr. Brown talked about, through the graduation coach program, through the restructuring of AIS, through freeing up our department chairs a bit more with some release time to kind of really work with their teachers and work with the teams. We received a grant from New York State, a replication grant, that enabled us to really look at data and to put data in front of our teachers and to have some conversations about what's going on from a macro level perspective. At the same time, our peer observation program has brought teachers into other teachers' classrooms. So how is the student performing in English as compared to math? Well, what strategies are working really well to engage that student in English that can be transferred over into the math classroom, and allowing our teachers opportunities to see each other teach, to have discussions around curricular practices, to look at data, to build relationships with students, and to foster a culture of intervention in the building, I think is contributing to a lot of the success that you're seeing this evening.
I look at a lot of data, and I benchmark ourselves against a lot of different districts. And I've been in a lot of places, particularly when it comes to African-American males, looking at data like this. And this is where I've seen the most alarming achievement gaps, period. When you really break it down, sometimes overall test scores, I mean, they've been shocking enough when you compare African-American students to all students, or free and reduced lunch students to all students. They've been shocking enough. But when looking at data, and particularly looking at this metric, I've seen the most egregious gaps. And I'll sit down here, an African-American male, as a superintendent who's looked at data for the last 15 years. I'm happy and encouraged to see we have about 53% of our African-American students and 50% of our free and reduced lunch students enrolled in a high-level course in our organization, and to see what the gap is. I mean, I've traditionally seen 60 and 70 percentage point differences between those enrollment patterns. And not long ago, we were in a situation like that. Not to say we don't have much more work to do, but there are some relationships that are being built, much more so than course offerings, much more, and we're going to talk about grades and other things later, but there are some relationships that are being built that won't be previously and haven't been built in other situations. I think I'm qualified it now from some experiences to say that. Move on.
Sure.
And so, when looking at back in my notes, we've shared a lot of elementary data. We've talked about elementary schools quite a bit over the last few months. We've talked about some of the highlights, some of the qualitative PD that's been offered to what's happened with as far as shifting some numbers. I would, and it's great that Jared is here. I just wanted to talk about high school. Again, going back to my listening and learning session, that first year on the job, the high school data came up just about in every session. And folks asking, and they were talking about discipline, SAT scores, course offerings, etc. So I thought it would be important 3 years in. And so what I'm sharing right now are 3-year data trends for Ithaca High School. Jared has been here, we've talked about year-to-year data trends, but to see it from a 3-year perspective, to see that when we had nationally ranked SAT scores. That's where we were when I got here. We had world-class scores when it came to SAT scores, and we were a standard deviation above our counterparts in our benchmark groups. And now to see that that's gone up 36 points in 3 years is pretty impressive. And at the same time, we've increased the number of young people who are taking the test. Student failures, again, typically when you see any shifts in those enrollment patterns, when higher level, more and more young people are enrolling in higher level courses, you see more and more failures or transitions in enrollment patterns, etc. So what we have are 50% decrease in the number of F's and D's, correct, at the high school. Additional courses being offered. Student discipline is down 46%. Folks came to meetings here with you as we made transitions at the high school with the security officer role and some other things we've done there to shift to create a culture of excellence and caring. And folks anticipated and said at this table that discipline would go up because of it. And I'm saying, and we're reporting now 3 years later where we're down almost 46% we're down. And we made some shifts with attendance policies. We had young people and others come in and question what we were doing with attendance and was it going to be too difficult or not. And what you're seeing at high school is it's down, it's up. Absences are down 18%. So again, and there's some other qualitative pieces there. It's a pure observation how our educators are sharing data across PLCs and the disciplinary approach to that. So again, I wanted to finish then with the high school, and the next time we talk about data, I'll bring some more elementary quantitative data to the table. I thought it would be important for the folks who had many questions, but for me, about particularly where the high school was, and also where we were as a district on some aggregate information. I thought it would be important to share where we are right now. With that.
There was a, Dr. Brown, there was a slide before this. Did you want to slide past that, or give just co-curricular?
I did skip that, and that was a big one, too.
But there was a question. Ned had a question, but just...
Yeah, so is this data has all this data been for Ithaca High School specifically, or does it include Boynton and DeWitt?
Most of it, everything I shared was secondary, except for that last side. So it would include LACS, Boynton, and DeWitt, including this one here. And I apologize, it didn't show up on my screen here. In co-curricular programs, we said that was yet another indication of achievement, and we really looking to go. 65% of our young people enrolling in a co-curricular activity in our district would be huge. That has implications for Ms. LaRoche who left. It has implications for a lot of the things that we do, but it is an indication of engagement and relationship building. And what you're seeing, so there's some things I've learned from looking at the data in this way. You'll see overall we have more than half of our young people participating in a co-curricular program, which is outstanding, but we have much more work to go to get to our goal. You'll see where we are as far as the different membership groups, and you see some gaps, but not the significant gaps that I'm accustomed to seeing when looking at this data. But what we're learning from looking at it in this way is that something we're doing, we see decreases, or there's some sports that are offered in certain seasons that we need to look at. Why are more young people enrolling in sports that are later in the year versus in the fall? Is it an indication of the weather, the indication of what we offer, et cetera? So that's something we're looking at right now, because you're seeing we ended the year last year at that 52, at those high percentages as far as young people participating, but we're beginning the year now at a different place. Although where we're beginning right now is better than where we began last year as far as the number and the percentage of young people participating. Something is something with our fall offerings. Maybe it's the quantity, raw numbers of sports and activities we offer, or the types. So that's something we're engaging in a conversation with our team about right now. But yet again, another indication of achievement for us.
And that's an unduplicated count?
Unduplicated count, yeah.
So it'll go up for the fourth quarter because of spring sports and other activities that... Okay.
That's one hypothesis for sure.
Oh, Ned again?
Yeah, so on one of the slides a bit earlier, you talked about wanting to get over 60% of people enrolled in those AP honors accelerated courses. And you talked a little bit about how you're trying to do that, and Mr. Powers talked too. What are you planning to do for the other 30% that aren't enrolled in those courses to make sure, I guess to use a district slogan, that they're engaged, educated, and empowered?
Well, we hope to engage, educated, and empowered in every course. That's the ultimate goal. And we're going to be tightly coupled with that experience instead of being more loosely coupled. Period. So that's one thing we're doing. But going back to relationship building, yes, it's good to offer more and more things, but building relationships where we're encouraging young people to challenge themselves, pushing them to be in those different courses, and then once in there, that's what happened for me. I had a teacher put me in one of those classes when I had no idea that I could achieve there, and then made sure I stayed. Instead of giving me the D at the end of the first quarter, she gave me a C, and I had done F work. It wasn't about a grade, then it was about mastery and a relationship and pushing me to think that I could achieve in it. So I think we've transitioned, and we're having many more of those kind of conversations with young people who traditionally have felt underserved or unwelcome in these courses. So that's been key for us too. But that's the same conversation we're hoping to have in every level of course here. And in time, I'm afraid to say this, but in time we won't have these type of level courses. When we offer a content area course, it is a content area course, and we expect all young people to be achieving that. I know we're a long way away from that, and some folks may not agree with that, but
But to the point, frankly, we were just talking about it a few minutes ago. You know, I may not want to take another AP course. I may want to be in an internship program. I want more hands-on experience because I'm tired of sitting here, Dr. Brown. I want to do something. But
we're going to build trucks.
Michaela, go ahead, and then we'll move around.
How you said you were trying to shy away from tracking kids, and like I know from my experience, like I always I excelled in middle school, so that put me kind of in a track to excel in high school. And how are you trying to shy away from that and making it easier for kids to transition between levels?
Maybe shying away from it isn't the term I would use right now. I wish for us to be more thoughtful about the tracks that we set up. An example would be, you talked about your middle school experience, and particularly in middle school, we do a lot with math. And I wish Jason was here, but I'm guessing we offer 6 or 7 different levels of mathematics at the 6th grade level. Those recommendations are made by a 5th grade teacher who may or may not have ever taught a 6th grade level course. With the implementation of the Common Core, we're looking at the 6th grade standard for mathematics right now. That's alpha type work. That's high level mathematics work. And while we as educators have decided that now that should be broken down into 6 different levels, I have no clue. And some of those levels don't lead to an advanced placement at the 7th, 8th grade, and quite frankly, young people don't have a chance to get into the kind of levels of courses that we're talking about at the high school level. So coming out of 5th grade, by the recommendation of an educator or a teacher, we're making decisions about where young people are going to be when they entering into high school. Now, I'm not saying that, maybe I am saying it's wrong. I want us to be thoughtful about that. Because I've seen many superintendents who say that's just wrong, that's tracking, we need to do away with it tomorrow, and they typically don't sit in the seat much longer after that. There are many other ways to tackle this and have this conversation than to say shying away from tracking. It's to be thoughtful about what decisions we're making about young people and their aptitude and their ability to do what the Common Core says should be the standard for everyone. Is that too convoluted of an answer? Does that make some sense?
I was just more trying to get, like, because I know a lot of times people have like a hard transition from middle to high school, and I know at the high school there are a lot of ways to try to make that better, but still sometimes people have like a rough time, so they end up taking lower level classes, but as they transition more, they find those classes to be too easy and want to move into higher level classes, but find that really difficult. Because I know, well, like I'm in AP Calculus right now, and there's a huge disparity between like the 2 levels of classes, and you see that more as you like get into higher levels, and like as you were saying, you have like 6 levels at the 6th grade level, and I think that's great, and I think that should like continue to the higher math levels as well.
Ms. Powell, did you add anything?
On tracking? Or just on the data? Right. So
any thoughts? I can feel you thinking over there.
Yeah. So here's what I think. I think one of the things that we are challenging ourselves to do in the high school is allow students access some pretty rigorous coursework, and to allow them to be successful in that rigorous coursework. As you alluded to earlier on in the presentation, 3 years ago, if you wanted to change your class, you changed your class, and you were able to drop, and they created all kinds of scheduling chaos, and many of you had students with themselves wrapped around the flagpole going out towards, Hugo Street waiting to get their schedule changed. We don't have that situation anymore. We ask students to be careful and thoughtful in the course that they sign up for, and then once they're in those courses, we provide the supports to make them successful in those courses at all levels, not just at the mandated levels of service. At the same time, one of the things that we're really looking at is looking at our curriculum and trying to find ways to engage kids. So we've raised the level at which we teach earth science, because we know that earth science is a particularly dense course. I love earth science, but it's not the most appealing thing to a 9th grader. So we moved that up to 11th grade and made biology the 9th grade entry course for all 9th graders. So they automatically become hooked and see themselves really being successful. And then they can kind of pick their levels within a biology curriculum that's pretty rich and really speaks about them and the life that's around them. We've challenged the way we approach Algebra 1 inside the high school, kind of having the combined Regents Honors experience, and then doing some flipping of the classroom around in a video format with some pull-out tutorials and our passage rate went from 70% to 90% in 1 year. So sometimes it's not so much as collapsing levels, but giving students opportunities to find the level that best fits for them, and not allowing decisions that were made in 5th grade to kind of dictate the next 4 years of their life. So by reimagining or repurposing how we do 9th grade to a very large degree around science, around math, we can talk a little bit about social studies, we're trying to engage students differently and get them to see themselves as a student that's defined by their own experiences, not defined by somebody else in an elementary grade for them. So that, I think, has been part of the reason for our success, is really empowering students to find their levels and to find their voice. You know, going forward to the career readiness piece, so we're getting ready for the CVAS credential as well. And actually, starting this week, we have 4 teachers enrolled at the high school who are getting certified to be CDOS credential people to actually go out and supervise student internships in the community, so they can actually go get jobs and receive high school credit for that. Right now we had 0 teachers who had the state certification to do that. It's a 3-credit course in the fall, in the spring, and a 3-credit course in the fall. That's an add-on to a certification. We have 4 teachers at the high school enrolled now that range from special ed teachers to graduation coach teachers to science teachers, to really kind of cover the gamut of what kids might experience when they want to go out into the workforce. So we're thinking both about raising student achievement, and we're also thinking about the career pathways for our students.
Great, thanks. Connor? Yes.
Was there a particular co-curricular activity at the high school that you were especially impressed with its attendance?
I don't have a particular one, no. I'm looking at it more from an average situation. I am happy with the basketball team right now. And the hockey squad.
Was Jay and then over?
Yeah, Ned brought up, I think, a good point about the statistic for the advanced and honors classes and such. And connecting to our speaker tonight from BOCES, it would seem that if one is taking the career courses up at BOCES, one might not be in those. And so we do not have any statistic tracking anything in the career path.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you do that, but what's it, you know, measure what's important or what isn't or whatever. And so I think we maybe should have something, because you may hit a ceiling even on those numbers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. They may be taking the career path, which actually, unfortunately, it makes it difficult to take those advanced classes.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. And I had that same reflection today, looking at the data and thinking about what that metric would look like and what I could recommend to the board. Because we've shifted our metrics each year. I mean, we reevaluate, and that's what good organizations do. We reevaluate what we measure annually. And hopefully next year we will have a metric that will give us an indication. And I actually did a search today. No one else is actually tracking it that I could find. So I'm hoping to engage with our my superintendent colleagues on next Friday around what that kind of metric will look like and how we can track it. Thank you.
Couldn't it be a percentage of students in a career path?
That's one. I was thinking even raw numbers. If you just started there, the raw number of the young people that are actually getting on the BOCES bus, for example, enrolling in one of the programs.
Right.
I think we will see some shifts and trends there. And then what they look like in their background will be important to track.
I do read once in a while, Dr. Brown. I did read an article before I came down here tonight. In other systems, well, frankly, those competitors in the global economy, their engineering programs, their engineers have to spend 1 year, you know, in a hands-on trade. I mean, they cannot go pursue their engineering degree until they do 1 year. I don't think it was 2 years, but I think it was 1 year of in an applied setting, knowing the results of what other engineers do, and realizing that there has to be a real-world application. What they design has to actually work. So that there has to be a hands-on component to that advanced degree. Those AP calc classes are fine, but unless you have the other piece, you still can't be an engineer. So I think we probably need to continually refine what we consider college and career ready. So anyway, there you go. There you go. It was in the Wall Street Journal. It's okay. Other elder, there you go.
Michael, a question for you. So you said there's this huge gap between what happens in the higher level advanced classes and then the Regents equivalent.
Oh, I thought you meant
she said.
Oh, well, I
It's
was
two
speaking
different
to
AP
two different AP courses.
Two different AP calculators.
Oh, and there's a huge gap between those two AP courses?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the calculation.
Oh, it's
Yeah, and there's a huge gap.
There's AP Calculus AB and there's AP Calculus BC, and those are the only two calculus classes.
And the message to go out is it's okay to take the other one. You don't have to take.
Okay.
So Michaela, you don't have to take them. You know.
I'm just like I'm in BC and I love it. I'm just saying this is large. I do. I really like it.
I'm sitting here, the person who's coming from many districts, to have these conversations right now, the different AP calculus courses that we even offer.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I mean the BC.
We still make a distinction between the expectations in those classes. Is that fair? Or are you saying that
to the college admissions officer here?
So AP Calc is the same as first semester calculus at a college, and BC Calc is the same as second semester. So you're either doing the first semester of calculus in your final year of high school, or sometimes before, or you're doing the first year of calculus in your final year of high school. So you're either doing one semester or 2 semesters worth of work in the first year, and that accounts for the radical difference in the curriculum. You're doing twice as much work in BC Cal.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty sick.
Thank you. It's not easy to understand.
It's a very good opportunity for those who wish to take it up. Yeah.
All right, so now that I understand it, I have a question.
Okay.
Might make sense to you. In your class, your single class, is there a huge disparity amongst the talent of the students and their understanding, and how does your teacher negotiate that? How's that negotiated within the class?
I want to say there's a huge disparity. I think at that point in time, people know you've kind of been able to feel out your level of mathematical ability. So in order to take, well, it's not really in order, but normally you take pre-calculus BC to take calculus BC. And I have some peers who took pre-calculus BC and said, like, that's not for me, I'm not going to take Cal BC. So they dropped down to AB. So at that point in time, you've had enough, I feel that students have enough time to just make a conscious decision to take a higher level math course. So I don't think there's a huge disparity in the ability of the students. Mr. Drix is a pretty versatile teacher, and he's the one who teaches Calc BC, and I think that he does a really good job at it. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, from your perspective, you don't see a big gap in the class. That was the question. I've always gotten the impression, having taken a lot of AP courses 1,000 years ago, that just because you're all in the AP class doesn't mean that the talent level is consistent. People are still all over the place, and the teachers still have to.
I think you can see that in different AP courses, definitely. For Calc BC, I don't see that as much, though.
I didn't take any. I don't know. It was different back then, Jay, I guess, right? Yeah. Were there very many APs?
There were not very many APs.
There were not very many APs, but that's okay. We still turned out okay. It's okay. I got to apologize for not taking you anyway. More comments. Go ahead.
I remember the initial conversation when Jared came to us and talked about the attendance initiative, which, keeping the kids in the classroom. And he said, we do, and I hope I don't misquote you, it's not a learning deficit, it's an attendance deficit. And we're seeing the results, and we're seeing, but I think to get to what Eldred said, there's also an application that needs to be consistently going. So we're talking about, accessibility and inclusion. to AP classes and that expectation and the consistent application of that will get consistent results, and we'll see the numbers shift, and like we've been saying, moving the needle. So kudos to you, Jared, to look at that from that mindset and recognizing it, and we have to keep looking at those gaps of, okay, so there's attendance, so where's the gap in application to move that needle a little bit more and have that dialogue like we had tonight, to keep improving. And what's funny is to listen to BOCES talk about what they need to do and what, and not to toot our own horn, because we are, we're doing our growing pains and trying to move the needle, and they're trying to move the needle at a different level. But our conversations are a little bit more focused at this point. So what do we do now that we've got this data? How do we sharpen our pencil again and really keep improving, I guess, is the next question. We've got some attendance things. We've got some things in place. What's the next step? Because we can't get complacent.
Well, to have this conversation now going into a budget season. So, as we were talking about continuous improvement, much of what we've done has had financial implications for our community. And it's been very supportive of this kind of shift within the process. So we have work to do to get that last 5 and 10 and 20% in some areas where we want to be.
But certainly over the long term, Dr. Brown, it's not just, there's much we do at Ithaca High School, but Michaela mentioned it, it's a transitions from, biggest transition for many of us in this district was going from elementary school to junior high when I was here. So that was the big transition, and certainly that 8th, 9th grade transition is being worked on. I've asked Jason about it several times, and it's been a work in progress. That's what I've heard. So there's still much to do.
And you said that you talked about that 8th, 9th grade. We heard from Jason about the focus from being disciplinary focused to educationally focused, which was a middle school model, just due to the nature of the kids and hormones and their age, and so that's part of the transition process where high school is not such a huge jump. You go from the control piece to the freedom piece.
If nothing else, Dr. Brown, that's.
So,
go ahead, Joe.
I mean, just so we don't lose sight of this, because we're talking about AP Calculus BC, the numbers that are up there are the work of an incredibly talented and dedicated group of people at that high school. Those numbers don't happen at high schools unless you have a high school that is bought in to a vision and it is understanding that they are appreciated and valued by the community and by this board. And so I want to thank everyone who works at the high school for doing the work that got us there. Because 50% reduction in failing of students, a 50% reduction in discipline, a 36-point gain in SAT scores, and the rest of the nation was flat during this last 3 years. It doesn't just happen, right? It happens because people come to work every day and trust us with their children to do the best that we can and give us the resources we need to do the job. We come to Dr. Brown, we come to the board every year and say, here's what we need to do the job, and we try to be prudent with those resources, but really leverage them to engage all of our students across the curriculum, provide them with a really world-class education. We're at the point now where we're talking about closing the final 10% as opposed to closing the final 40%, and that's a wildly different conversation, and we're almost to the point now where it's kid-specific. And we're going by kid, by name every day to move that needle, as opposed to talking about massive groups and how we're going to get them to come to school. And so this has been a real shift, and it's a testament to the leadership of this district and to the leadership of this board to really allow us the creativity and the flexibility and the autonomy to do what we need to do to work with kids. So I thank you, and I thank everyone who works at that high school for those numbers.
We thank them too.
Thank you, Jared. Good place to stop and thank everyone, and we'll move on. But there are a few more items that we need to address. There are other business items thank you, Dr. Brown. My board members / no, I don't need glasses now at all. was a few items that board members wanted to bring on for, I think, probably a short discussion regarding reinstating regular committee updates.
Yes. That came up in...
It came up in policy, and I think Sean was going to speak to it, but he, of course, has had surgery and needed to go. What was coming up in the policy committee meeting was the interest of transparency and communication with the public that many of us as individuals tell people, go, you know, the committee meetings are all open, go to the committee meetings, but the public doesn't really get much of an idea of what's going on in a specific meeting, because all we get is there'll be finance and facilities and human resources and policy, and that that those of us who are committee chairs, and I am not one, but each committee would be encouraged to publicize an agenda the way we publicize board agendas, so that community members would know more in advance, you know, which meetings they would find valuable to attend, and Danielle could circulate committee meeting agendas to the various listservs and community groups, as well as the district website, the way we do with board meetings. Oh, and that also committee chairs could give more regular updates of what we're doing in committee to the board in general, so that we all know and the public knows. We endorse this unanimously as the policy committee.
Yes, and it's not like we ever hear from policy at board meetings, but I think it's probably the other committees that we need more regular updates. We call for an update really probably in the fall. Okay, what's the plan of work for the year? Historically, Brad, we used to do basically monthly updates.
Yeah, we did.
But I think
yes, the other committees meet once a month.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Oh yes, and or however many times you all get together.
Would be fine.
It sounds like there's a two-pronged approach.
I was asked at EILC for an agenda, or at least something that was indicative of what we were going to discuss at curriculum. And I think people have asked at policy too, what's going to be discussed.
Sure.
So,
Sean gave every indication of being willing to get together and put out a policy agenda on a more timely basis.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to do it for finance and facilities, with the caveat that when staff brings me things at 4 o'clock that afternoon, I still get to add it to the agenda.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, it's just the nature of the beast.
Sure.
If we're only going to meet once a month, some of the things come late. But no, we've been trying to get the agenda done the Friday before.
For HR, it's not a problem.
I don't know if you need a report every month from each committee, if you want to put a rotation on it.
Some things are ongoing, so.
Yeah. I'm fine with putting a rotation in committee, one committee reporting at each meeting or something.
Right, in an effort to streamline or make wise use of our time when we're in front of the public, I think we used to go around the room and basically, you know, Jay, you got anything from audit? Well, no, but we're meeting in 2 months, and you know, that kind of thing. But you know, if there was something timely, then there would be a report. But perhaps a rotation would be useful.
Are committee meeting minutes accessible to the public?
Yes.
In the Dropbox?
The committee meeting minutes are not, only the board meeting minutes. They're available to anybody who would like to have.
Is there a reason I cannot think of a reason why
Why wouldn't we add those to the public Dropbox?
There's no reason not to.
So we could open that up. I would suggest we open it up both in the past and going forward. There's probably a switch or something, or a setting, right?
This would not be an onerous exercise. Certainly the minutes are public, the meetings are public, the minutes are public, so the more public the better. Agendas will be publicized, minutes will be publicized, and we're going to develop some sort of rotation. Do we do one committee report each meeting, or do we one a month? We wouldn't hear too many updates, so be prepared. We'll set up a rotation, and I think that the main thing, committee chair just wants to know, okay, yeah, this is the meeting I have to speak. Sound good?
I'd like to add that on February 11th, that the curriculum committee will also meet February 11th at 4:30.
Are we on the dates?
We covered the two discussion items.
Danielle, you've got a meeting next week of Finance and Facilities. You did move the meeting to February 19th. It's a March 5th meeting. We added, not a February 5th. Yeah, we added. And and that'll be the March 5th one will be specifically to the energy performance contract. It'll have a single topic for those who are interested.
So Judy, Max, you got down your two curriculum meetings in Feb.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
So next Tuesday is the meeting in Auburn.
That's correct.
I'm going. I think I saw Brad's going.
I'm going.
You're going.
Central New York School Boards Association.
Which is encouraging anybody, PTAs, community members,
public can go.
Teachers, staff.
Auburn Middle School, I believe, at 6:30. Yep. We're going to meet there and then march on Washington. No, Albany. No, maybe we'll just come home after that, I think. It'll be nighttime and it'll be cold, so we'll probably just not march that day. But that's an important meeting that the School Boards Association has been promoting across the state. Regarding the gap elimination adjustment, basically feel that if the state law states that there's a calculation for a state aid formula and the state comes up with that number, that state aid should be delivered to the component districts of New York State, rather than the state of New York taking back millions of dollars from each district for their own budget purposes, when frankly it's against state law to do that. Or it's executive order, or there's a lot of executive orders now at the state and multiple different levels. But Dr. Brown, do you have executive authority to do things like that?
We can work on that. No policy committee.
We can have policy work on that. We're bound by laws, and we hopefully expect others to be so as well. Any other business by board members? Anything else?
Move adjournment.
Second by folks. Without objection, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Bye.